Hi friends, it's your buddy Matt, the Global Ergonomist from AbilityOnDemand.com, your work from anywhere specialist. Buck and I are relaxing on the front porch of the cottage on the Intracoastal Waterway outside of beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, my hometown. We went romping around along the Intracoastal this morning, and now we're kicking back and we're enjoying and talking about the series of podcasts we've just been delivering about the Huberman Lab Podcast. That is Dr. Andrew Huberman, the scientist from Stanford Medical School, who has a phenomenal podcast. His episode 57 is about optimizing your workspace. So it's cognitive and organizational ergonomics right up front. And we've been talking about 3 episodes or 3 portions of that episode so far. You remember, we discussed phase 1 as Dr. Huberman describes it. That's from 0 to 8 hours after waking, and that's when we secrete a lot of dopamine, epinephrine, and healthy levels of cortisol. We also know that that phase is best for focused intensity, analytical work where we really have to dive deep. Then he talked about phase 2, 9 to 16 hours after waking, where serotonin is prevalent in our body. This is best time for creative work and abstract thinking. Today we're going to talk about phase 3 according to Dr. Huberman, and that is 17 to 24 hours after waking. You remember, there are a lot of people who are shift workers, and there's also emergency workers. People like digital nomads who have drop-dead deadlines on them and rush work that they have to get done. And of course, all of us may remember an all-nighter or two as a student. Now, if this describes you, and it's a one-off, and you want to be able to maintain your awareness, but also your regular sleep rhythms, remember, set and setting. For normal purposes, and you want to keep your rhythms right, limit the light to just what you need to do work. That means turning off any overhead light during phase 3. Remember the melanopsin ganglion cells we talked about in phase 1. So you don't want overhead light. Lower the level, literally, of light to things like spotlighting, desktops, and tabletop lamps. Use your screen brightness adjustability downward to your favor as well. You know, you can always just use it for what you need for work, not too bright a screen. Also consider blue blockers not only on your device, but also wearing them during this phase of work. Remember, this is when you don't want to make upsetting your sleep schedule a regular occurrence. Also consider sit-to-stand desk. Keep it in standing mode, and that will keep you alert as well. And feel free to use a light meter judiciously as something that helps you establish baseline versus threshold measurements. You get a feel for what's best for you. Now, if you're some of the people who have to do this on a regular basis, you're a shift worker, and your sleep pattern is going to be upset on a regular basis, you can also do some things. Bright lights, remember, severely deplete melatonin levels. So it's like traveling to another time zone. When you work under bright light in the middle of the night, it's like flying to another coast or another country. The exception to this is to use bright light only when you absolutely need it. So if you're going to do this regularly, by all means, it's ideal to do that. The tricks for pulling all-nighters on a regular basis that Dr. Huberman suggests but doesn't recommend, none of us do, is to consider drinking a lot of water, believe it or not, because when you've got to urinate, you're very uncomfortable. You could set that to a 90-minute timer, as he described. Also, consider judicious use of that sit-to-stand workstation. You could set that to 90-minute intervals as well. In other words, you won't sit until that timer goes off. Tricks to pulling all-nighters also include things like, again, as many overhead bright lights as possible will upset melatonin levels due to the melanopsin ganglion cells we've been talking about in previous installments. The tricks to pulling all-nighters, like using caffeine and stimulants, are self-explanatory, but please use them judiciously. You can also use that light meter as I described for. Now, if you cast this all, as we have in each episode, over the Eisenhower decision matrices, you realize this is how you combine cognitive and organizational ergonomics for optimal performance. Consider your spatial considerations. Where should you be doing this particular thing during phases 1, 2, or 3? Consider temporal. Again, where is phase and when is phase 1, 2, and 3 best optimized? Consider the focal nature of your work. When are you doing that deep, sharp, analytical work, and when are you doing more of that abstract thinking? Choose the right times a day for that. And then, of course, don't forget the digital matrix as well. And that is, what's the right tool for the job? Sometimes you need the heavy lifting of your desktop computers. Other times, a laptop is fine in the kitchen or on the porch like this, or a tablet at a nice cafe, or your smartphone at the end of the day in a busy place. Again, think about all of these factors overlapping each other and what Dr. Huberman has described in these various phases. And stay tuned, we're going to continue to dissect episode 57 of Dr. Huberman's Huberman Lab Podcast, because it's great neuroscience, and that's what cognitive ergonomics and organizational ergonomics is all about. Hope you find this interesting, and I hope you'll come back. Remember, digital nomads, 1, do good work. 2, be good to others. And 3, get outside and play like Buck and I do, and we'll enjoy it all together. So until next time, bye-bye, everybody. Take care.